And a pleasant good evening. Welcome to Beyond the Scoreboard here on the Lawrence County SportsNet, powered by LCAP. Every Wednesday night, taking a look at the upcoming games. And first a look back at the week that was, and then a week that will be. And we have completed the month of September. Welcome to October. A couple of big announcements coming up in the next couple of days, including tonight on the Band Festival show. We'll announce the LCAP Team of the Month for September and our Red Zone Athletes of the Month as well. And a couple of big things happening on Friday that we will be announcing at our broadcast. More on that in a moment. I'm James Dodson, Eric Thomas alongside, as we are getting into the nitty-gritty here. Down the stretch they come, and 4 games remaining. Things are starting to take shape in terms of conference play, especially in the divisions and conferences that have lots of teams in them, Eric. But at this point, I think we're really starting to see exactly what all these teams can be, including big time in a conference opener for Newcastle. We'll talk about them first, but just in an incredible circumstance for the Canes. We got to talk about them immediately.
Yeah, one of their biggest wins ever, and at least in recent history. You think about where this team was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they were 2-18 over a 2-season stretch, and all of a sudden now they're 10-5 the last 2 seasons. You want to count season and a half, whatever, but they've completely flipped the script. They have won big games that I didn't know that they would beat Alec Clippa. I felt more confident maybe about them going into these next 2 and winning them, but the fact that they came out of that game and did it in the clutch, once again, learning how to win big games, but not only learning how to win big games, they're learning how to do it when it matters most in the clutch. And that's something that you can't, that's not coachable. That's not something that you coach. You can practice 2-minute drills and run your stuff in your practices and all that, but till you're actually in that environment and do it, you can't teach that. And these kids, these players in this Newcastle team, they picked it up right away. That's going to go a long way to the development of some of the younger ones and really magnify just how bad these guys want to win these games and get into the playoffs and hopefully make a run for them. That's going to go a long way the way that game ended on Friday.
18-12, the final, with the game-winning touchdown run by Marino Graham, the freshman quarterback. That game-winning touchdown run with just 24 seconds remaining, and then able to knock down the Hail Mary pass to secure the victory. But for me, it's shades of 2012 when Nishanik had the first year with Coach Mazzocco there, and a team that had been down in the dumps, really nothing special over the last decade, almost 2 decades, a couple of winning seasons, that was it. And all of a sudden they go and take down Stowe Rocks in an instant classic, 35-34. I got those vibes again on Friday night, Eric, as we were following along on that Newcastle game. And just, it's a community that believes. They did believe, but now I think it's even more of a belief. Like you said, they were going to play well. I think everybody expected they would play well, but it's still Aliquippa. You know what's going to happen. You haven't beaten Aliquippa since 1987, and now you just went and did that. Now I think you got a whole nother level of support here from Canes country.
Yeah, it's just the atmosphere on Friday night is going to be through the roof, and the fact they get these 3 games at home too, I think, is a massive bonus. These are not going to be the last 2 games that they play at home. I mean, they're gonna get a playoff game, it would seem anyway. And you got to start thinking. I mean, it's easy for us to say this, but they just have to focus on going 1-0 every week. But the way their defense is playing, the way they're running the football right now, the way Marino Graham has kind of shed that freshman aura, and he is now playing like a veteran player and making clutch plays at the right time. You got to start thinking about them winning this conference and being a top 4 seed too. I mean, I know we're a long way away yet, but plenty of football left, 2 massive games these next couple of weeks. And then you got to handle business against the bottom of the division too, because it's an Ambridge team that they didn't beat last year. And that kind of derailed them. They're not what they, anywhere close to what they were a season ago. But so you can't look ahead. It's a little bit easy for us to do it. But, now that they got the one out of the way against Aliquippa, they're in the driver's seat. They basically, and I hate the saying, but they control their own destiny right now.
Yeah, they do. And then keep in mind, too, only 8 teams make it in Class 4A. So you have to be top 4 to get a playoff bid. But you're right. The ball is in their court, to say the very least. And if they take care of business, they're a conference champion. They're definitely going to be one of those top 4 seeds in a very deep Class 4A this year. But you talk about Marino Graham shaking off the freshman status. Dude, he's the top passer in the county, 716 yards. He's number 3 in the rushing totals with 548 yards. And he's got 17 total touchdowns, which is the most in the county. he is no longer a freshman and certainly not playing like
yet. So, we haven't seen him just dominate a game by throwing the football. He's made clutch plays doing just that, throwing the football. But, we haven't seen him have to go, like an ungodly, like 25 of, 37 or something for 400 yards passing like some of these other guys do. But his dual threat ability is really what is going to help lift this team up. Now, we know that they might have a couple of guys banged up here this week for Montour. So his running ability is really going to come into focus, I think, in that game. And he just can flip a game. You saw it, and I've said this already this season. You saw it the first week of the year when they played Penn Hills, and they desperately needed a touchdown drive to put that game away in the second half. And he goes right down the field in the third quarter, the first drive they have the ball, and takes him right down the field and scores a touchdown. And you start thinking like, all right, well, it's 12-0. This game, isn't quite over yet. And then the defense takes over and the defense does its job. And you start learning that this defense is actually a legit unit too. And, what they've done as a collective unit is remarkable, but what Graham has done, he's living up to the hype. I mean, he really is. I had a feeling when I saw that video of him playing basketball in second grade that circulates on YouTube, I had a feeling we were in for somebody special.
Third straight game of 100 yards rushing, the big game-winning touchdown. That's what impressed me the most. It was a zone read. He kept the ball in the belly of the running back forever, it felt like, then made the pull because he saw the opening up the middle. And it was a senior-level play that he made as a freshman to go along with another rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown to Chase Lemon earlier in the game. So Canes at the top of the Parkway Conference with that 1-0 record. They still have Montour and West A as the next 2 big home games coming up in the next 2 weeks. Jump down to Class 2A. Let's talk about the Mohawk versus Union game from Friday night, one of the better games we saw across the county on Friday there with Mohawk. Well, again, a quarterback making a play late. Bobby Fadden, just over 2 minutes left to go in a tie game. The defense gets a 3-and-out. They get the ball, a good punt return from Fadden, and then he calls his own number on the very next play on a 52-yard quarterback keeper for the game-winning touchdown. A big win for Mohawk. It keeps the playoff hopes alive, but I think just get a little momentum back there in Bessemer after what was a rough 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, and Fadden posts his second-best quarterback rating of the season, too. Didn't throw an interception, which was huge for them in that game. Got to avoid the mistakes. There's very little margin for error for them right now, so you've got to avoid the mistakes. You can't let a team like Union hang around, which, they were doing for most of that game. But, his ability he's throwing for a first down every time in that game, and he was running for a first down every time he carried the ball, too. I know some of that's enhanced by the number at the end of the game, but it's going to have to be his team. It's going to have to be Bobby Fadden carrying this team the rest of the way. And they only had 3 guys that caught a pass on Friday, which I thought was kind of impressive, and they only had 2 guys who carried the ball. So when you factor Fadden, Stratton, Ardro, Nail, those are the only guys that did anything offensively, and they still got the job done. So that tells me that these guys are a little bit more refocused and, maybe they've refined a few things here and there, and they know that they have to keep the ball in Bobby Fadden's hands for most of the night. I mean, 26 touches offensively, 18 pass attempts, 8 carries, good enough. Lucas Stratton didn't have to do a whole lot in that game. Maybe you get him about 20 more yards or so, they probably would have won this game a little bit more comfortably, but Fadden accounting for the 4 touchdowns and no turnovers was a big thing for them in that game. And as he goes, they're going to go, and you cannot make the mistakes and give other teams opportunities when your margin for error is so slim for this team right now.
If you didn't check out our Friday night highlights broadcast from over the weekend, definitely check it out, both for the Newcastle game and for this game. Lots of impressive plays Give a shout out to Union, by far their best offensive performance as well. Gianni Millions over 100 yards on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown. He also was part of a hook and lateral at the end of the first half. He got about 50 yards worth of offense on that reception, the hook and lateral from Aiden Booker, and then they scored on that last play of the first half on a touchdown pass to Booker. So the Union offense, again, getting a little better each and every week. And the fact of the matter being that they were able to put up about 250, 260 yards of offense. Again, a step in the right direction. And yeah, they're winless, but they're looking better, and they still have winnable games in front of them, Eric, that they still, as crazy as it sounds, they still have a shot at the playoffs. It's the same scenario they had last year at this point.
Yeah, they do. They do. I wonder, what the mindset of that team is going to be, going forward now, just simply because they have that win under their belt in a big game against a rival. They needed that boost. Like if that's any other team on Friday night besides Union, I don't know that the win is as good as it is when it's the rival. They needed kind of like that extra edge to the game. Like it doesn't matter what Union's record is, doesn't matter what Mohawk's record is. Those two want to beat each other so bad. They're 4 miles apart. We know the history between them. We've been there for the history between them. They needed just not only just to win a game, but to have a game against an opponent like that they can, get emotionally invested in and make it feel like a big game regardless of what the record is. So I think that the fact that it's against Union helps them even more. I really do think that helps them even more than what a game against anybody else would have.
The other game in the MAC on Friday night featuring our county teams, Elwood City. Maybe a bit of a surprise here. The 2-0 Wolverines travel to the 0-2 New Brighton Lions in conference play, but it's New Brighton that gets the win at home. A 14-12 victory, a 2-point conversion is the difference. And kind of like you mentioned, the turnovers for Mohawk, they were able to avoid them. They get the win. 3 costly turnovers, a couple of interceptions from Tyler Smiley early in the game, and then a late fumble when they had gotten into field goal range with less than 2 minutes to play for Elwood City. The turnovers definitely hurt. There's some banged up players for sure. It was a sloppy, muddy, ugly field. Some injury concerns coming out of Elwood City. We'll have to check in later in the week and see how they're all recuperating. But this is one that I think if you're a Wolverine fan, you're saying we let that one get away.
Yeah, and that's, that we knew that, again, that this team was going to be sort of a 50-50 team. We thought maybe like a 500 team. You don't really know what you're going to get from them week to week, but not a good loss for them. They needed to win that game. They needed to keep the momentum going. They're a game behind Western Beaver in the division. I still think they're in good shape to make the playoffs, and I still think even though they're 3-3, I think their record's a little bit deceptive. I mean, they have Western Beaver coming up on Friday, so they have a shot to get right back in the thick of the division. And then it's 3 winnable games against Riverside Union and Beaver Falls. So even if they lose this game on Friday and go to 3-4, they're going to finish minimum 6 wins because they're not losing any of those next 3 games after that. I'm sorry, all due respect to what Union does. I just think Elwood City is going to be favored in those games. And I think these kids sort of understand, like when they're up against it, that what they have to do to react. And, they lost to Neshannock and then came back the next week and beat Mohawk the way they did. And they beat Freedom. So they've been at a point this season where they've already had to rally from a tough loss, and they're going to have to do it again, but they've already been through it. So I think that helps them. And I still think this team has a lot to play for, a lot in front of it. And they can start by picking off Western Beaver. It's going to be really hard, but their defense is going to be capable of maybe slowing them down enough that they can get just enough out of their offense. Who knows?
Yeah, and I'd also think, encouraging. They've been running the ball very well. Struggled to run last week, only 60 yards rushing the ball. Tyler Smiley able to go and step up 200 yards passing. Yeah, a couple of interceptions, but they found ways to get the ball in the hands of Dayline Curry and Dom Hogue, getting some quick screen passes, quick slants, and that's why I've been most impressed with their offensive improvement is finding ways to get the ball into the ball carriers' hands, into those athletes' hands nice and quickly, especially when sometimes the running game isn't working. So at least positives to still work on looking into the big games coming up.
Yeah, and again, they can rely on their defense. So I do think that's a big plus. That's been the most consistent unit for them. I know that they didn't win this game on Friday, this past Friday, but that's been their most consistent unit, I believe, all season long, and kind of a surprise to me. So the other thing that they do so well that a lot of teams, you have teams that have the quarterback and then they delegate, but the quarterback is so dominant, like a Gino Mazzocco, a Bobby Fadden, players like that. Even a Graham Marino, who's, I know that Newcastle still has a bunch of guys they can go to, but he's still really the predominant guy. Where Elwood City differs from everybody else is that they don't have that dominant guy. They can rely on so many other parts, and I think that makes it easier for them when they get into a situation like they're coming off of on Friday night, where they go into practice and they go, okay, we have this guy we can give 5 or 6 touches to, this guy we can get the ball to, this guy we can get the ball to. It doesn't have to be just all on one shoulder. Smiley's gonna have to make some big throws, but I think when you can, you know, delegate your offense like that, I think that helps your defense out a little bit too. You're not so focused on, okay, we need to run the ball to have this kind of momentum, or we need to throw the ball 20 times to have this kind of momentum. It's we can balance it out, we can stay on the field a little bit longer, helps the defense out, and then they can go and do their job and try to get stops. I do think that they are such a balanced team that they're not going to be in any kind of pressure. They're not going to feel the pressure because they can just look at around the field and find different guys that'll step up and help them.
Yeah, and to steal a phrase from Brandon Fillion and Wilmington, each of us needs all of us. It's a lot easier when you do have a more balanced attack that Elwood City certainly has had. And maybe the big leader is from defense and Declan O'Brien with all that he's done over the course of his career. Maybe that's the guy they can continue to rely upon to really rally on the defensive side of things. Still plenty of games to go for Elwood City, with plenty still in front of them. But the big one Friday we'll be previewing here in a moment. Let's jump down to Class 1A in the WPIL and look at the game that Eric had a chance to catch last week. Neshannock takes care of business on the road, 48-7. But man, that started wacky and wild in the other direction. A kick return for a touchdown immediately, then a defensive play, an interception for Shenango as well. And if you're Neshannock, you were sweating bullets there for just under a quarter, and then finally settled in, did the Lancers, and took care of business.
A little bit, yeah, but they just got back on the field and they just calmly went down the field and took the lead or tied the game and then took the lead after that, and it was just kind of like business as usual. And like that game, that final score is a little again deceptive. Shenango played hard, James, but they just don't have the depth right now. They don't have the ability to put everything on Caleb McConnell's shoulders just yet. That's going to come. He's going to be a good quarterback, no question. And he's going to help them win a ton of games the older he gets. But they just, when they got down in that game when Shannock took the lead, you kind of like look around and you see the temperature of the game and think to yourself, well, the way they're going to get back in this game is that they have a big special teams play right now because their offense can't do anything. I mean, they had under 70 yards of offense in the first half. They couldn't get first downs. Both teams were not good on third down in that game either. They were 0 for combined in the first half. That was a little surprising to me, but again, that's not really indicative of how good Neshannock was. They really didn't need to convert on third down because they were racking up first down. So it wasn't a big number for them, but it was for Shenango, and they just couldn't find an answer for it. I do think Shenango is going to be a good team. I think they need probably, anywhere from like 7 to 8 extra guys on that team. If they had just a little bit more depth on that team, that's a 4-quarter game, and you sense that right now, and that's not a lot of guys. Nico DeSalvo wasn't 100% healthy. We weren't even sure if he was going to play right up until kickoff. Then you see him in warmups, and you didn't know if he was going to go on offense, and they couldn't get their footing under him. The kickoff return was good, but it was great, but they just couldn't capitalize on it from that point. And you sort of felt that air sort of come out of the stadium a little bit when Neshannock went right down the field and scored and did, a lot of damage in the process of it. And it just kind of was like, here we go. Like, now what do we do? Now we got to try to figure it out. And they will figure it out in the future. They're just not, that team is just not ready for prime time right now.
Yeah, and not only with the factor rookie quarterback, freshman quarterback, but yeah, I think the lack of depth, especially in the trenches, is always a big key, especially at a small school and having bodies having to move around. They've fought it for 4 years. They fought it all last year and early this year. They will piece it together and figure it out. But yeah, that was tough against a Neshannock team that on their end is really clicking. especially on that ground game. And just to your point, Anthony Aiken with 164 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Neshannock with over 300 rushing yards as a team on the evening. So they're doing what we kind of expect Lancer football to do. Talk about the Lancers real quick, Eric, in terms of their progress and getting a little bit better each and every week, kind of like we would have been expecting to see, especially with a kind of makeshift and new offensive line finding the right pieces.
Yeah, they, and that's been the most impressive thing about this Neshannock team is the guys they've had to replace up front, and they're still getting quality minutes out of it. And Joey Veronesi's out, now, so they've had to replace yet somebody else again. And it just seems like they don't miss a beat when they do it. So it's been very impressive watching them continue to put things together, work on them, and their team is it's sort of a byproduct of what they've played so far, but we're not seeing the best of them yet. And I think for their sake, for a team that has had so much invested in really getting to the postseason, but then not having the success in the postseason, but they're so invested on just getting there and having that home game and finally trying to get over that hump. Their toughest games come at the end of the year, and I think that's really going to help them. This is the team. This is the year where I think that helps them, where they have to get up for Southside Beaver. They have to get up for Laurel. They're going to have to win those 2 games. Simple as that. And having the Laurel game right before a playoff game, this team, and I know 1A is loaded, and they're going to get a really good team that comes knocking on their door if they get a home game. But I do believe that having that style of game for this team where they haven't been able to really showcase exactly how good they are to this point of the season, and we're still questioning, like, hey, is this team going to be what we think they are? A lot of us are doing that anyway. We're going to find that out, and I do believe that they will benefit from having those tough games down the stretch. And this is a little bit different of a team too. This is still the hey, we're going to blow you out and go for the big play and all that. But last Friday was a little bit more methodical. And I haven't seen that style of football from them in the couple of years that I've been with the crew here. That they had their big play. At the same time, they were driving the football. It wasn't just throw the ball 70 yards down the field and get a big play and score the touchdown. They were running the football. They were sticking with it. They were being patient. Gino wasn't having to do everything and wasn't really like on his shoulders the whole time. Aiken was fantastic in the game on Friday night. There just seemed to be a little bit different of a mindset with that team that I have not seen yet, that we need to see when they get in those postseason games and when they get in those big games down the stretch. I do think that they've yet to play their best football, but it's coming. It's coming pretty quick here in these next few weeks.
Still haven't seen the best football from Laurel either, I don't think. A 50-0
Nope.
win over Northgate, so back-to-back shutouts to start conference play for the Spartans. A 3 total touchdown day for Jack Miles. Carlson's over 100 yards rushing again. 2 more rushing touchdowns for Nathan Hill. Business trip down to Northgate and back there on Friday night to defeat the Flames there for Laurel.
Yeah, and they waste a little time doing it, and we're going to be really curious to see. It's funny because early in the year, you would have told me, that, hey, this Laurel team is playing the way it is. I thought they were the best team that we had in the area. I would argue now that that's probably Newcastle, especially coming off that win last week. Not that there's a competition among these teams or anything as to who has to be the best, but this Laurel team is wasting little time and putting teams away. And I want to see them pressed because I want to see them have to play their best football. Like I want to see them have to dig down deep in it. I mean, really, that program has been itching to have a moment like that, and they may get it. They may get it here yet. Southside and Neshannock, that 3-team round robin tournament that's going to evolve here over the next few weeks, and then plus Shenango, that's going to be an emotional game for them too. I mean, that's always an emotional game. And that's going to become a Super Bowl type game for Shenango. They're going to want to win that probably more than anything the rest of the season. And if they were able to knock off their arch rival, that's a big feather in their cap that might lock up a playoff berth for them too. They're going to hang around. I think Shenango will get the extra football later in the year, but I really want to see how that Laurel team responds if they get pressed up against the wall and have to just kind of dig down deep, make a big throw like Lucas Santini, comes through in the clutch, get a big pressure, get a big sack, make a big catch, all that. And we're going to see that happen to this team over the next couple of weeks and find out just exactly how good they are. I think we know how good all these teams are, and I think we know what all these teams are, but there's another level that you have to get to if you want to be great. And that's what we need to see now going forward if any of these teams have that.
Yeah, and figure out what the scheme is going to end up being, and what team can just make a play on a Friday night. That's going to end up being the big difference in all those games, and especially in that round robin tournament there in the Big Seven. Real quick, up to District 10, the other game we had coverage of on Friday night. Wilmington struck first in that one too, much like Shenango. Very similar story, but Farrell, they returned the ensuing kickoff for a touchdown. They never looked back. They got a big goal line stand late in the first half, did Farrell. And completely blanked Wilmington the rest of the game. 44-7 was the final score. An emotional game for Farrell. One of the assistant coaches, junior high coach, has been with the program. All the boys know him. Brandon Bell. He passed away in a shooting death the weekend before. His godson, Jules Johnson, the starting running back, wears his number, wears his name on the jersey. He goes off for a huge game. The quarterback, Aaron Pegues, with 3 total touchdowns as well. Farrell is the real deal in terms of 2A teams here on the western side of the state, Eric.
Yeah, and not a real big surprise that Farrell won this game. I was a little surprised they won it in the manner in which they did. And of course, this is the game where Wilmington hits the big pass, to get the touchdown to Freddie Zettner, but or throw it to from Freddie Zettner. But the Farrell, they're strong again, and we knew that was going to happen. They're state ranked again. 2A Penn Live's got them up in the top 3. Now, which is probably where they belong. That was a good game to kind of serve notice for. I don't think it damages Wilmington that much, to be honest with you. I mean, this Wilmington team's played a really good schedule. They've gone out of state how many times now? They've taken these long trips how many times now? You knew this was going to be a close game. Their secondary had some problems. They were outgained 2-1. The game featured 15 penalties. None were super debilitating as far as the outcome of the game or anything. Farrell just has that extra gear, and they were able to turn it on. Wilmington will learn from it. They'll move on. They'll come back the next week, and they'll come back in the single A tournament, and they'll continue to roll. That's a good. If there's anything as such as a good loss, that even though that they lost at 44-7, that's still a good loss, I think.
Yeah, as long as you get out of one of those games too. Unfortunately, yeah, you see the score going the wrong way. To get out of there healthy, and they lost at least one lineman in the first half with an injury, and a couple others who looked maybe banged up, but just over the course of a game. So we'll find out on Saturday when they play Reynolds. Hopefully they are back to full health, because that's a good Reynolds team that is undefeated. That's going to be coming into Terry Varelli Stadium on Saturday. We'll preview that one in a moment, as well as all the other games coming up on Friday. When we return, it's Beyond the Scoreboard, Lawrence County podcast at LC SportsNet, powered by Allcap.
Thank you for calling Axe. Where can we take you today?
To work, to the store, to Grandma's house. Axe can get you there, but it's much more than a ride. It's a joy.
Grocery store.
They say I'm entertaining. Okay, we laugh, we joke, we sing, we tell stories.
They're like family to us.
Even if it's the same day, to schedule your joy ride, call Axe today.
Calling all sports fans. Never miss a moment with real-time alerts, keeping you in the loop when your favorite teams are playing.
Get instant updates sent straight to your phone with game schedules, changes, and all the latest news.
You can receive important updates and reminders, so you're always prepared for game time.
Be the first to cheer on your local teams and show your support.
Receive important updates and reminders, so you're always prepared for the game.
Signing up is quick and easy. Don't miss out. Sign up now and stay connected to the action.
Plus, follow us on social media for live updates, behind-the-scenes content, and community news.
Having a safe and healthy home is not something to play games with, especially if your home was built before 1978. You may be exposed to extremely harmful lead-based paint hazards. If you're concerned about lead in your home, don't roll the dice on your family's safety. LCAP's Healthy Homes Lead Hazard Reduction Program is here to help you win the battle. Your family's health and safety is the goal. Contact the Department of Healthy Homes today.
As a reminder, we will be announcing here momentarily over on the Lawrence County SportsNet broadcast of the Band Festival, 45th Annual Band Festival. We will be announcing our LCAP Team of the Month, as well as our Red Zone Athletes of the Month, the first awards of the regular season. A couple shout-outs to give. Wilmington boys and girls soccer are both undefeated in region play to start the year. Mohawk cross country for the boys and Shenango cross country for the girls, each undefeated section champions. We're going to have a tough time coming up with that LCAP Team of the Month. On the athlete side, Maddie Arrow, part of another section championship for doubles tennis in Neshannock. She was also in the singles bracket. She was the section runner-up. Giada Toscano for Wilmington is absolutely lighting up the goal. 22 goals on the year for Wilmington so far. On the male side, Scotty McConnell turning into, at least it looks like right now, making a name for himself. Jackson Shadle Part 2, maybe. He's having a great year running cross country. Raka Bayudi for Neshannock Golf qualified yesterday for states, finished third, brought him a bronze medal in the WPIL championships on the link. So plenty of great nominees. We'll get the awards officially announced. Flip on over at the top of the hour for the start of the band festival. We'll have all of those, as well as performances from all of the great bands. I'm James Dotson. Eric Thomas here again as we get ready for another week coming up on Friday night. Before we get to Friday, remind you as well, we'll have volleyball coverage on Thursday as Shenango hosts Riverside. That's Section 4 in the volleyball ranks is going to be an absolute nail-biter. Every game going to be huge down the stretch in terms of getting into the top 4 and getting into the playoffs. We'll have our 2 games on Friday. We'll also have a Saturday football game, and we'll also have Saturday morning coverage of the Tri-County Cross Country Championships as well. So lots happening here in the next 72 hours at lcsportsnet.com. But let's take a look at the games coming up on Friday, including the one that you and I will be at. Eric, let's start there with Class 4A. You got to avoid the hangover, Newcastle. You just did something you haven't done in nearly 40 years. You beat Aliquippa. And now you got Montour coming right back up the very next week. Got to get ready. Got to go right away. And because Montour, Lucero team, you can't take them ever lightly, especially again, when now you got the target on your back.
Yeah, and it's a different Montour team than what Newcastle saw a year ago. You know, remember we went down there to McKees Rocks last year for that game, and Trey Hopper had a great game. They didn't run the ball all that great. They were over 100 yards in the game, but they were a pass-dominant team the last 2 seasons. This year, it's a complete flip of the script, and they like to pound the ball more on the ground. And, you know, they're breaking in a sophomore quarterback and Brandon Bennett, who's been pretty good, had his best game of the year last week against Blackhawk, a game in which he really took over, and he's thrown for just under 1,000 yards, but you know, he was 14 of 18 last week in the game, 3 touchdown passes, and his 231 was his season high for passing yards. So I mean, he's shown flashes of it, but they're more of a ground and pound team now, and they don't throw the football like they were. And that's not a bad thing because, you know, Caden Halajico has been great. He's been a workhorse. When they do throw the ball, Xander Stearns got, you know, at least 3 receptions in 5 of the 6 games they played. He had 8 catches, 8 of the 14 last week went to him. He's been a problem. And their offensive line's huge. Left tackle Ricky Herman, massive, 6'3", 275. He's only a junior. They got a lot of pieces they're building around with this team. It's a much different team than what Newcastle saw a year ago. So expect a little bit different style of a game than what we saw. And they do a lot of things that teams have not really been able to do against Newcastle all year, and that's run the football, because Newcastle's rush defense has been off the charts good. Aliquippa did get him a little bit last week for 169, but that's the best performance on the ground since they played Hopewell in week number 2 or week number 1, whatever you want to call it. It's a game they can't look ahead, you know, look beyond and look at West Allegheny the next week. But I just said it last week and I've said it before. I just don't think this team cares. I don't think what's in front of them bothers them. And when I say they don't care, I mean, they do care about the outcome of the game, but I just don't think they're fazed by any of this stuff right now. These are players that have been to championship level sports with this athletic program, WPIL basketball final. They've been to a state playoff game on the hardwood, most of them. Their best player might be their freshman quarterback, and that kid sure doesn't seem to care what's in front of him. He just goes and makes plays week after week. It's a different attitude. It's a different mindset with this Newcastle team, and it's a different style of Montour team. And we'll see what's what on Friday night. But this is a heck of a matchup, and it should be a lot of fun.
You talked about what's going well for Montour. What is it that Newcastle needs to continue to do? And also, what do they still need to improve upon in your mind to be able to make this run over the next 2 games and set themselves up for a Parkway championship?
They just got to play with resiliency like they have been and not get fazed by anything that other teams throw ahead of them. I mean, there's, when you play Aliquippa, there's not just Aliquippa in front of you, and you know that they're going to be the most physical team that you play all season long. But there's also this like sort of myth about playing them. And, it's automatically you're not the best team on the field. And the 2 teams that have clipped Aliquippa this year, Avonworth and Newcastle, are record-wise anyway, 2 of the best in the WPIL. And they both play with we just don't care what is in front of us. We don't care about your myth. We don't care about your aura. We don't care about your history. It's a great program to play. It's a building block for us, but I just don't think they get fazed by it. Avonworth sure doesn't. I mean, they might be the best team in the state, regardless of class right now. But this Newcastle team has been searching for that style of mindset for a long time now. And credit to Fred Mazzacco, because he's been able to instill it in them. He put his trust in a freshman quarterback. And, next year when there's a whole slew of film on him, it might be a little bit different. Teams might have a better idea how to attack him and how to defense him, but right now they don't. And this team is just clicking on all cylinders. They just got to keep playing with the same resiliency, cut down on the penalties, no mistakes, no turnovers, can't give your opponent extra possessions, and just keep doing what you're doing offensively.
Just because it still kills me from what happened over the weekend with Penn State, I'm going to go all the way back to what was 2008 when Penn State got an upset win against Ohio State. Didn't see it coming, but then they had to let down the following week, traveling to Iowa, and lose the game. Cost them the rest of the year. That's the kind of thing you got to avoid, coming right into it right away. You're playing your game again. That game's over. Got to be 1-0. 1-0 mentality is definitely going to be the key, and I think you're exactly right on penalties. That's been the Achilles heel of Newcastle, even in their big wins. With all the shutouts, a few too many penalties, taking points off the board or extending drives on the other end. They can avoid penalties. I give them a great chance yet again to take care of business at home against a talented Montour Spartans team. Eric Thomas, Tim Continental will be on the call for that one. That will be a live video, live audio, but tape delay video per the wishes of Newcastle. However, real quick, we will have full video coverage during the pregame of the ceremony they're doing. They're doing the Newcastle Sports Hall of Fame. They've just created it in over 100 plus years of Newcastle High School, and 125 years now at this point of Newcastle High School in sports. Had to come up with an inaugural class. I think the final number was 24 inaugural inductees that they're going to recognize during the pregame ceremony. Man, how do you figure out in 120 some years to narrow it down to just 24 athletes and coaches over that time to make that list? What a heck of a list it is.
Well, and you got to figure that the first class is going to be the biggest because they got to start getting everybody in. But there's plenty of time. There's still a couple guys in the NFL that are going to come back and get there at some point. But I look at some of the names that were on the list, and I don't know quite everything about the Newcastle history. I mean, I know enough to know who guys like Bruce Clark are, that played at Penn State and played in the NFL. But there's a lot of history there. You try to hit all avenues of it. You try to do it at a big football game. And how about doing it the week after you beat Aliquippa? So what do you expect the biggest crowd of the season is going to be, and the most juiced crowd that they're going to have there? That might not have been last week. It's going to be this week. Everybody's fired up about them. So why not bring that class back and do it the right way in front of what probably is going to be the best crowd they have all year?
It'll be a lot of fun, and we'll have that full inaugural, not address, the what's the word? Recognition. There we go. There before the game on Friday night. But yeah, a couple of coaches from the football team over the course of 100+ years will be recognized. Got a couple of great track and field athletes. You have Lloyd Johnson, who's one of only 2 players in Pitt basketball history, men or women, to have their jersey retired. So lots of great names that are going to be recognized there on Friday night. Well, let's jump down to Class 2A here real quick and take a look at some of those games for Friday night. Let's start with homecoming at Lincoln High School. Elwood City, again, a tough loss against New Brighton, and now you got to take on who is expected to be the top team and has been the top team in the conference so far in Western Beaver. Maybe trouble shorthanded as well. Again, not sure what the status is. I had a couple players who left the game and did not return last week at Elwood City. You got to play your game. I mean, they're not going to win games in a 35-point type shootout. They got to try to do anything to keep this Western Beaver team as limited as possible, which I know easier said than done. But they got to keep this game in the 20s or the teens to have a chance.
Yeah, and it's going to be on the defense, but their offense is also going to have to eat up some clock in this game too. And this Western Beaver team, we just talked about Montour and what they do differently compared to last year. This Western Beaver team is a running-oriented team too, and they're blowing the doors off everybody that they've played. I mean, they're averaging 40 points a game. I don't know that they've even given up 100 points yet. They may not have even given up 70 points yet. I think they've played that well overall. Yeah, 74 is what they've given up. Have come in the 3 conference games. So they were shutting people out. They're outscoring teams 40-12, almost 41-12 on the season. Elwood's going to have to just come out and play physical with them. They're going to have to push them around, and they're going to have to get stops early in the game. They're going to have to get off the field. And this is going to have to be a field position type game, perhaps. This is going to have to be a clock type game, perhaps. They're going to have to just try to wear down Western Beaver. They're going to have to try to go on long drives, safe throws, a little bit maybe more conservative than what they typically can be. But they've got to keep that Western Beaver rushing attack off the field in this game somehow, some way. Limit the possessions, don't turn the ball over, and get them into 3rd and long, make them run the football in situations where they don't necessarily want to, and get off the field and try to get a short field out of it.
Wyatt Sparbani with 12 touchdowns on the year. He's the leading rusher, and dual threat quarterback Amari Marshall. Those are the 2 names you're going to hear the most for sure come Friday night for that game. It is homecoming there. Our friends at ECS will have the coverage of that one. Follow them on their YouTube channel to catch all the action on Friday night. Mohawk will be traveling to New Brighton for their game. And again, New Brighton and Mohawk each with their first conference victory. You can get a winning streak going here and put yourself right in the middle of the playoff hunt. Forget everything that's happened before. That's what it's coming down to right here. You get this win, you're still in the driver's seat big time for the rest of this MAC conference run here, Eric. And I think more than anything, if you can slow down New Brighton, don't allow a big play, I think Mohawk's a team that can grind out a game against the New Brighton that doesn't have, other than, a quick strike ability. New Brighton's not a team that can typically grind out a game. They need that big strike offense. If you can avoid that, I think you got a great chance against New Brighton.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And again, they've got to keep doing it the way that they did it last week against Union. Fadden 4 total touchdowns, Fadden being the offensive focus and not turning the ball over. They cannot turn the ball over. They don't have, a team that we talked about with no depth in Shenango. Mohawk doesn't have a lot of depth either. That's a bit concerning because this team has had, 3-4 wide receivers and, some depth at the running back position. They don't have that this season. It really falls down to a couple of guys. And, sometimes you see in basketball, sometimes coaches shorten their bench and they just focus on 5 or 6 guys or maybe 7 guys that get them to wins. And that's the recipe Mohawk has to do right now. I mean, they get a little bit out of Lucas Stratton. Bobby Fadden does most of the work on the ground. They throw the ball to a couple different guys, and they maybe mix in a pass play or 2 to Lucas Stratton again. And that's what they're going to have to do. It's going to be a tight game again, I would think. Mohawk's defense has been pushed around by some teams. They were out physical by a Beaver Falls team who may not win another game the rest of the year, and they rebound from that, so that's a good sign. But it's going to have to be on the shoulders of Fadden. He's going to have to carry them, and if he can continue to play like he did last week against Union, then they're going to be in the driver's seat and a chance to get a playoff game.
Congratulations to Bobby Fadden, by the way, and the other qualifiers who made it to the second round yesterday of the WPL golf tournament. Again, Rocco Baiuti, the only one who advanced, but a lot of great performances from, including that four-sport athlete there in Bobby Fadden there on the golf course as well. That game, again, 7 o'clock at Oak Hill Stadium there in New Brighton. Union will be going to Reeves Field at Geneva College, where Beaver Falls plays all their games. You're going to hear a lot of Xavier Clark in that game for Beaver Falls. They got their big win 2 weeks ago against Mohawk. Union, again, keeps progressing. I think this might be the one, Eric, that they could go and take care of business on the road and get that first win, get that elusive win. It's the first win they had last year as well. They can, if they could do that again then, on Friday night on the road, again, it's just keep on progressing, and I think they're doing that so far. The sky is still the limit the rest of the year. It's still all in front of them somehow.
Yeah, it is, and they do have to come up with some wins. They got to scratch out some wins here, and perhaps they can get that this week. Maybe we'll see, but they have a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of things in front of them that they can accomplish, but I think that they are. You see how tough that they're playing when it's against the Riversides and against the Mohawks of the world, where they can keep this game low scoring or keep it within a score at least. And that's exactly what this team is going to have to do. It's going to have to be a defensive oriented style game, a physical style game. They're limited in some of their offensive capabilities, so they have to work around that. And if they can somehow piece that together, they need shorter fields. That means their defense is going to have to be the focal point and get stops. And if they can do that, then yeah, they can probably get a couple of these here at the end of the year.
Yeah, just shy of 300 yards last week and avoided the turnovers. That's the biggest key as well for a Union team that's going to shorten the game as much as they can. Don't believe we have any video stream available. We'll have updates on all of our games as well, always with our scrolling scoreboard and following with updates on Twitter as well. In Class 1A, another homecoming game, Laurel hosting Summit Academy. Summit Academy with a win last week against Rochester. So Summit, again, we know what Summit Academy is. Well, actually, we don't know what Summit Academy is going to be from year to year because they have almost an entirely new roster as a school for adjudicated youth. But, Laurel, I guess the main question I have, Eric, will Laurel make it 3 straight shutouts in a week, in a row?
Yes, they will. I don't like to pick scores or any of that, especially games I'm calling, but yes, they will. Simple as that. Too talented. Defense is too physical. This team's hungry. They will use this as their springboard into their toughest stretch of the schedule.
Easy enough. And yeah, you take away the Bishop Canevin game where they gave up 46 points. They gave up 2 touchdowns in the first week to Elwood City, a single touchdown early in the game against Mohawk, 3 shutouts against Riverside, Rochester, and Northgate. So that defense firing on all cylinders. I think that's going to be a very underrated part of this Laurel success. And we've said it before, I still don't think Laurel has played their best game, even though they put up 40 and 50 the last 2 weeks. Still looking for their best offensive performance here coming up, I think, as well. Laurel YouTube channel will have a video stream of that one. Shenango traveling to Rochester. We know the Rochester roles. Shenango, get back to business as usual, and I think keep developing your quarterback, correct?
Yeah, as simple as that. They got to try to get out of this game relatively unscathed, too, because of their depth issues. But, yeah, I think this is a big game for them to bounce back, and it's a Rochester team that have to take advantage of what's in front of them, and that's going to be an undermanned Rochester team. So win the game, move on, pad your stats a little bit, get a big win, get to 2-2 in your conference, move on from there, and see if you can upset Laurel down the stretch.
The Shannock is having a non-conference game against Burgettstown. The Shannock hosting the Blue Devils. It was a big playoff game. It was probably 8 years ago now, where Burgettstown came up to Bob Ledgey Stadium and kicked a game-winning field goal, 38-yard field goal as time expired in what was an instant classic game there. I don't know how many of the kids on the roster today will still remember what had happened 8 years ago, but I'm sure that members of the Shannock staff certainly won't let them forget, like, hey, we're going to take care of business here tonight. And again, it's kind of similar to Laurel, right? Take care of business early on, get the backups in, get them some extra work, hopefully, and get yourself set up for these last 3 games.
Yeah, and stay healthy. That's going to be the biggest key for this team. They got to stay healthy down the stretch. And if they can do that, put themselves in a position. This is, again, another game. Like we said, the Laurel game with Summit. This is a springboard game. Get the win. Get guys out of the game early. Get right. And get ready for the next couple of games on the schedule because they are by far the toughest. But this is the Shannock team. Again, I just – so often did we see them win like emotional games or big games early in the schedule, and maybe they peaked a little too soon in some spots in previous seasons. I just don't see that right now. I don't see that type of play right now from the Shannock where I want to say that they're peaking too early. And that's a good thing for them because they want to be sharp when it gets to the postseason, sharper than what they've been. And that's what this game's all about. Just get through it, get healthy, get back on the bus and get ready for the next couple weeks.
Colton County will be leading the way for Burgettstown coming up north to Lawrence County for that game on Friday night. And while I have a moment, I do want to mention we are now in October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I know there's going to be a very a special ceremony in some regards, or it might even just be a quick mention. But I'm going to give a big shout out as well. The Shannock graduate from the class of 2004, Brian Kroback. He is fighting you don't hear very often. He is fighting male breast cancer. He beat it off once and then was unfortunately he got diagnosed again. He's in stage 4 cancer right now. But a guy who, a big part of the Shannock legend in terms of high school sports. Thinking about you, Brian. You're an inspiration with all of your running videos. He's training for a half marathon in New York City to raise awareness for this and all disease. And obviously we know it's a disease that touches everybody, and we appreciate those kind of stories, and we wish him especially the best of luck in the marathon training and to keep fighting for everything that he's got still in front of him. So great to be able to tell his story. We'll talk a lot more about that on the broadcast as well on Friday night. Again, thanks to Brian Kroback for all he's doing for breast controlled Reynolds. It's mainly the same roster on both sides of the foot.
Totally overmatched last year. They never really had a shot in that game. And it was a game that Wilmington controlled with their offensive line. They're controlling Reynolds and pushing him around and getting off the field, and I think we even saw a couple of they are Wilmington is going to be in bounce back mode once again. To me it's good to come off a game like Farrell where you knew it was going to be a tough game. Maybe you could scratch out a win. Most likely you were going to be up against it for the 4 quarters, but then they have to come back and play another big game like this against a talented Reynolds team that's going to be hungry and looking to knock off a team that they kind of had their sights set on for a while. So it's a good game for Wilmington to bounce back.
Right. Freddie Z had 2 touchdown receptions from Vascal last year. He's got touchdowns in back-to-back games from Rowan Miller this year, taking over at the quarterback spot. Outgained Reynolds last year 400 to 130 in total yards a year ago. But again, I think you're going to see a more balanced, higher scoring game. I do think even though Reynolds is undefeated, I think Wilmington is still the favorite in this game for sure. They got to take care of business though, in terms of controlling the line of scrimmage, and especially if there definitely were a couple of injuries. Not sure what their help is going to be, Eric. And I think that's always the key. You got to be healthy first and foremost, but keep playing your game. Even if you got guys who have moved into new positions, I think Wilmington does that about as well as anybody can. They got to show it again here on Friday night or Saturday night.
Yeah, they do. And, that when you play that style of physical football that they do, the concern is the healthier team regardless. You could beat yourself up so bad just playing your physical style of football compared to taking the hits from other teams. But I think they're ready for this challenge. I think they're ready for what's ahead of them. And I still think Wilmington is going to Cumberland Valley to play for a state title.
Got to get through this one first, and I think you are spot on that they have that all still way in front of them as a great possibility. We'll have coverage of that one with the Sports Radio 96.7 crew from Mercer County Radio as well. We'll provide the video coverage here at lcsportsnet.com. Before we wrap things up, Eric, new state rankings starting to trickle their way in from different sites across the state over the course of the week. Anything that really stands out? Newcastle, they getting any love there in 4A after their win against Aliquippa?
Post-Gazette's got them ranked in their WPIL rankings, but nothing statewide so far. Neshannock's still a team to watch. I know that they'll keep an eye on Laurel down the stretch, and obviously maybe flip-flop those two if Laurel can beat Neshannock somewhere along the line. 1A is so loaded, though. I mean, you look at the 1A rankings, and they're top to bottom, just so good. Farrell did jump up from 4 to 3 in terms of 2A. That was a nice move for them. Amani Christian continues to rise. WPL team that continues to rise. How about Berwick, though? Berwick's back. They're 6-0. They're knocking teams off. They're ranked in the top 10 again. It's been a while since that happened. Elizabeth Forward, North Catholic still, going strong as far as WPIL teams go. And then we're seeing a lot of the repeat champs too. I mean, Bonner Prendy, which won 4A a season ago, is number 2 right now. And 5A is still as good too. Pine Richland Roman Catholic 1-2. And I think they're still waiting to see what St. Joe's Prep does in 6A, but they're hanging on to a top 5 ranking. They continue to move, and they got their best games ahead of them coming up here too. So we'll keep an eye on them as the season goes on as far as 6A goes. But, that 1A, I mean, we've talked about it all year, how deep that class is. And it's still Fort Cherry and Clareton 1-2. And then you get down to Port Allegheny, who made a run last year. Westinghouse is back. Wilmington's in there. Greenville's top 10 now. They were 9 a week ago. Canavan's back in it. A lot of WPIL, a lot of District 10 in that 1A, and that's going to be what it is out here the rest of the season. It's going to be a hell of a tournament, hell of a postseason in both districts.
Yeah, and I think anything is possible. The one thing that's not possible, though, what we saw on Sunday night, a tie from your Green Bay Packers. How do you feel about ties in the NFL, Eric?
It is what it is in the regular season. I sort of think they should go back to the sudden death rules and continue to play on, but we might have been there till 5 a.m. had they done that.
Yeah, 40-40. That I don't think that was a scoregami. Actually, no,
it was. Yeah,
it was a
the highest scoring tie ever. No ties ever ended 40-40.
That's incredible. So scoregami there. We're actually in the process of figuring out Lawrence County football scoregamis over the course of 100+ years, because why not? I'm the math guy, and I love having stupid number facts to be able to rattle off. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. We'll get you those in the upcoming weeks. So again, stay tuned. Flip on over the start of the band festival here in a few moments. Then tomorrow we'll have volleyball coverage again. Shenango hosting Riverside. On Friday, the 2 games, Neshannock against Burgettstown in non-conference action, and Newcastle hosting Montour at Taggart Stadium. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. at Shenango High School for the Tri-County Cross Country Championships. And then Saturday night with Sports Radio 96.7, Wilmington hosting Reynolds. Thanks again for tuning in, however you listen to your podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Plays, whatever you got, or on Facebook Live or Twitter as well. We appreciate you joining in. Stay tuned for all the great action the rest of the week with football on Friday and Saturday. And we're getting into the stretch run, and that means playoff coming up as well for the soccer and volleyball seasons. For Eric Thomas, I'm James Dotson. So long. Stay tuned. Powered by El Cap.